Hi everyone. I hope all of you are able to hear me. It will be great if somebody can just confirm in the chat window and then we'll get started with the session. So it's going to be a very short session. I think half an hour should be enough for this, where we're just going to discuss anything that you may want to know firstly about the JBIMS MHRD and the MSc Finance program. And I'll be taking you through the notification. So I'll be walking you through all the details that are there. There are some things that you need to keep in mind while you're making the application. So if there's anything that you want to know, feel free to ask me. I've spoken to a lot of students in the past who have done these two programs. So if there's any insights that I can share from that, I'll be very happy. Okay, so let's get started with the session. And first things first. So in terms of the notification, right? So if you go to the JBIMS website, and if you scroll down a little bit, you will see at the bottom under the latest announcement section, you will find MSc Finance and MHRD admission. Okay. In fact, a few days back, somebody reached out to me and that student was saying that I'm applying to the MMS program, but then I realized that the student was applying to the part-time program. So please don't get confused. JBIMS has multiple programs, so don't get confused and apply to the wrong program. I'm assuming that a lot of you are interested in the 2-year full-time programs that are there, and there are only 3 2-year full-time programs. The first program is the flagship MMS program. The admission for that is through the centralized admission process, which the CET cell will be conducting, and that is yet to start. The second 2-year full-time program that they offer is the MSc Finance program. And the third program is the MHRD program, right? So now the application that you will be doing is for the 2-year full-time MSc Finance and the MHRD programs. Okay, so these are the two programs for which they have opened the admission process. Now, let me first take you through the MSc Finance one, and then we'll talk about MHRD. Of course, if you have any questions, you can put it in the YouTube chat. I'm monitoring it. So if there's anything, let me know. Okay. All right. So now in terms of the MSc Finance program, the deadline is 26 July. I'll just zoom in a little bit. So you can apply till 26 July till 4 p.m. I would suggest that you complete your application at the earliest and don't wait for the deadline. So try and complete it, say in the next 1 week or so that you don't, there's no delay on that front, right? So try and finish it off at the earliest. Of course, take your time as well in terms of writing the application, ensuring that you answer all the questions that are there in the best possible manner. So put your candidature in the best possible manner, right? So take your time as well, but ensure that you finish it before the deadline. For the MHRD program, the deadline is exactly the same. So there is no change in terms of the deadline for the two programs. You have to complete by 26th. In the past, they have extended the deadlines, but definitely don't go with that. So don't think that they will do the same thing this year as well. They have given a considerable window. So you have roughly 2 weeks that are there to complete the application process. So try and finish it off within that period. Okay. So that's the first thing. In terms of the application form fee, all of the details they have given in this document itself. So 1,500 rupees is what it is, and that is something that you'll have to pay. Now, just taking you through firstly the eligibility for the MSc Finance program, and then we'll talk about MHRD. So for MSc Finance, I'll just take you through the important things, but I would suggest that all of you go through the entire document, right? Because there are some things that are important for you as an aspirant that you should be knowing. But of course, they are not important in a very large context. I'm not going to be covering each and every line that is there in the document, but please take your time and read through the document that is given. So in terms of the important things, right? Firstly, if there's anybody who has appeared for the UPSC, right? So UPSC Civil Services exams in 22 or 23, having appeared for the interviews or personality tests, which is clearing preliminary and the mains, then this person will also be eligible for admission. They don't have to take the Maharashtra CET or the CAT, right? So if anybody is there who, I've rarely seen somebody applying through this route, but if there is anybody who appeared for UPSC, cleared the prelims and the mains and due for interview, then the person need not submit a CET or a CAT score. Again, I'm assuming that a lot of you are either CET or CAT students, and now you're thinking of making the application. But if there's anybody, you know that you don't have to have these scores, you can apply without that as well. Now, if you look at the next thing, right, which is the initial filter. So this is an important thing because if you don't clear this, you will not be able to get a call. And because of this, there's no point applying if you don't make it through this eligibility criteria, right? So what we mean by this is in CAT 23, the percentile for general is 95. So anybody who has scored less than 95 percentile, you are not eligible. You should not apply for this program. Same for MHCET 2024. If you have scored anything less than 97, you're not eligible. So these are eligibility figures, 95 and 97. So anybody who has got a more than 95 in CAT, more than 97 in CET, you're eligible to apply. For reserved category and for the PH candidates, the data is there on screen. So you can see 75 and 90 respectively for CAT and CET, 75 and 85 for CAT CT for PH candidates. Okay. So this is the minimum eligibility that is required for the MSc Finance program. Okay. Now moving forward, what they have is the past academic record cutoff, right? So what you also need to have, right? The PR cutoff. So what they have said is, please note to be considered for profile evaluation, they need to, the applicant need to meet the above cutoff and the PAR cutoff. So it is and, it is not or. Okay. So you have to also have 60% and above in 10th standard and 60% and above in the 12th standard. So there is nothing on the graduation, right? So even if, let's say, your graduation score is less than 60, you're still eligible to apply. For reserved candidates, it's 55 and above. So if you have 10th and 12th more than 55, you're eligible to apply and considered for profile evaluation. Another thing that they have written, which is very important, is that the candidate should have opted for mathematics at the HSC level or at UG degree course level. So you should have had math as a subject either in 11th, 12th or at the undergrad level. Okay. So a lot of people, when they have their 11th, 12th, even if you have one mathematics subject, it should be fine. Now, generally, there is a question that what if I had statistics, right? Can I apply? In that case, the only thing I would suggest is you can just reach out to the institute, ask them that if you can apply through that. It should not be a problem, but it's better to get a clarification on that front. Okay, so though they have explicitly mentioned mathematics, in case you have a doubt, if some subject which is related to mathematics, would that be considered or not? You can directly reach out to the B school, right? So just write to JBIMS helpline and they will reply. Now, one thing that I have mentioned here is that approximately 400 candidates will be called for the next step. The next stage is going to be the in-person assessment, which is group exercise, personal interview, and writing aptitude test, right? So GA is again group discussion is what it is. Then there is a personal interview and you have the VAT. So VAT, GDPI, that's the process that will be followed in case you get shortlisted. 400 candidates shortlisted for about for 40 seats, right? So that's one person out of 10. That is what the selection ratio is. So they'll call roughly 400 people for GD VAT PI. Through that, they will select the final 40 students, right? So 10 students out of which one will get selected, right? That's the ratio that you're looking at. Now, the total score, they have given the weightages for this. 60% is the application rating, 40% is the in-person assessment, right? So let's have a look at this quickly. So the 60%, right? So 60% is the entire application rating score in the final. But when they're shortlisting you, the application rating score gets calculated out of 100. And that is going to be all of these parameters. So CAT, CET, UPSC score, that will be out of 60. The academic record, which is 10, 12, etc., that is 15. The extracurricular and work experience is 20. And diversity is 5. Okay, so that makes a total of 100 there. This will be calculated then or scaled down to 60. In-person assessment, GA, PI, VAT, they have 20, 60, 20 weight, PI being the maximum. Again, this 100 that you get will be scaled to 40. And then the application rating is 60% and in-person is 40%. So there is still higher weightage on the written test score that you bring to the table, right? So that will still be something as the most important thing in the whole thing. But of course, the weight is not 100%. The weight is for the MMS program, right? So you still have a shot. As long as you have cleared the cutoffs that they have specified, I think you should consider applying, right? Because you never know what finally will happen, right? If let's say, for example, you have a fantastic GA, a great interview, right? You will be able to compensate for not having a very high CAT or a CET score, right? So, for example, can I convert with, let's say, a 99 percentile on the CET? The answer is yes. Can I convert with, say, a 98.5? Possible. Can I convert with a 98? Depends. But of course, you need a very good interview and a GA and a VAT, right? So by having a higher or a better performance on GAPI VAT, you will be able to compensate for not having a very high CET or a CAT score. So keep that in mind while you're making this application, right? So I would suggest that all of you, whoever wants to try, please go ahead and make an application and see what happens, right? So this is the entire thing. Just maybe a couple of additional important points that are there, which I'll speak about, and then we can move to the MHRD program. So if you look at the reservation, right, because that is another question that a lot of students have, that what about reservation, right? So what they've specifically given is that the reservation applies only to Maharashtra domicile candidates with valid documents. So you will have to prove that you are a Maharashtra state candidate, either through a birth certificate or a domicile certificate, and you are eligible to claim the reservation that is there. If you don't have the necessary documents, that you'll not be then you'll not be able to claim it. So if you're, let's say, somebody who is born, brought up in, let's say, Jaipur, for example, you've done your entire 10th, 12th, graduation, everything in Jaipur. Now, if you want to use your category certificate for admission here for the MSc Finance program, then you will not be able to use it. Okay, so that is what this means. So also keep that in mind before you start your application. Okay, and then the seats that are reserved, they have given the percentage. So it's out of 40, 50% seats are general seats. So that is 20 open seats. And then the remaining reservation is given to you on screen, right? So you can go through this document and have a look at it before you start. All right. So there isn't much in the remaining document which is useful for the larger audience here. So I'm just going to move to the next bit, which is the MHRD, right? So let's now move to the MHRD application details. First of all, talking about the deadline. As I said, the deadline is exactly the same. So 26 July, 4 p.m., right? I've received a few questions on the MSc Finance, so I'll maybe answer those before we move to MHRD. So Snehal has asked, if one gets under AIR 10 in CMAT, are there chances of getting into JBIMS? What's the selection process after CMAT? Okay. So after CMAT, right, what you're talking about is the JBIMS MMS process, which is through the centralized admission process of the CET cell. It was supposed to start on 9th July, and today we are on 12th July. It has not yet started. They had released a document which said that the process will start from the 12th July. While I'm doing this session live, as of now, it has not started, but it will be starting soon. So keep an eye on that. Keep visiting the CET cell website and you will find the details for that, right? Since you have mentioned that you got a AIR under 10 in CMAT, depending on what percentile you got, because the percentile matters more than the rank that you have. Depending on the rank, depending on the percentile, sorry, that you have, I'll be able to comment whether you have a chance at JBIMS or not. For all India candidates under which you will be applying with the CMAT score, typically the cutoff is 99.99, very rarely moving to a 99.98, right? So that is the numbers that we're looking at for the all India candidates. Again, this is a digression from the topic that we have for the session today, but because I had received that question, I decided to answer it. Aditya has asked, can we apply for both MHRD as well as MSc Finance program? Also, would they know whether we applied for both courses during interview? So if you think that you are inclined towards both finance and HR, I don't see any harm in making that application. The only thing that you'll have to convince the panel, right, is why, right? Even if, let's say, whether they figure out or not, that's a secondary issue. The thing is, let's assume that they will know that. Okay, let's assume that for the time being. Now, if somebody asks you, why do you want to do finance? Will you be able to justify that? If somebody asks why HR, will you be able to justify that? So don't make an application for the sake of application. You try and evaluate whether you are inclined, first of all, or not. If you are not, then there is no point making the application. So let's say, even if you convert HR, if you're not going to join, why make the application, right? But if you have, even I would say maybe 25-30% inclination towards HR at this point of time, or you're confused, you're standing on the fence, I think you make an application and see what happens, right? You can always take a decision later as to what you want to do. Okay. But I would not worry too much whether the panel will know that, okay, I've made two applications, so they'll cross-question me on that front. I would definitely not get into that. Okay, so it's unnecessary. I think you're thinking too much. You don't have to do that. Okay. So Aditya, I would suggest that you make an application. Simar has asked, I'm concerned regarding the graduation documents. I'm currently in my final semester. and the end sem is commencing from 18. So I currently have mark sheets till 5th sem. What can be done? That should not be an issue. So see, generally all the institutes, right, they have an outer date by which you have to submit your graduation certificate, right? So anybody who is in the final year of graduation, maybe your exams have not yet happened. In such cases, typically the outer deadline is that of December. So at least for the MMS program, I know that it is December as defined by University of Mumbai. So let's say if I'm appearing for my final examination or for whatever reasons I've appeared and I've yet not received my marks or my result, I'm still eligible for admission, provided it's a provisional admit that by December of this year, the end of the year, I submit the documents that are needed. So it should not be a problem, Simar. Just in case you want more clarification, you can always reach out to JBIMS. Mihir has asked, how comparable is the MSc Finance program to other top standard MBA finance courses? Okay. So don't worry regarding the curriculum, because the curriculum, in fact, is more rigorous than the MBA program that you have in finance. So if you look at any other institute, I'm not only talking about JBIMS, you pick the MMS or the MBA finance curriculum, and you pick the MSc Finance curriculum. Because it's a focused program, it deals with more depth in finance compared to an MBA finance program. So curriculum wise, MSc Finance is always better than, say, an MBA finance program. Where MBA finance, of course, scores higher in terms of the overall industry recognition, the fact that if you look at the overall curriculum, it also teaches you more about the discipline of management. So you learn a lot about what is, say, marketing, HR operations, systems, IT, analytics, and so on. So you have more overall understanding of the business rather than the functional knowledge that an MSc Finance will offer. So that's the only difference, I would say. Now you have to evaluate what you really need, right? So if you're somebody who is not very sure that I want to remain in finance, right, then this program may not make sense for you. So if you're somebody who is exploring, right, that should I do finance or should I do marketing, then an MBA program is better because the first year is common. You can decide at the end of first year what is it that you want to. But while you're committing to a program such as JBIMS MSc Finance, you have to be very clear that finance is what I want to do in life. Okay, that's the difference, I would say. Deadpool has asked, hi Deadpool, I scored 95 point something in CET. What should I go for? Okay, so see, at 95 percentile, you know that you cannot get into the MMS program of JBIMS, correct? So now if you're somebody who wants to try for JB, right, there are options that exist in the form of an MSc Finance or an MHRD program. Now you think where your inclination lies. Is it finance? Is it HR? And basis that you can apply for this program and see what happens, right? See, I would say, I would put it very simply. The cost is 1,500. You think of, let's say you go out for a movie, right? You will easily spend 750 rupees just like that, right? Your ticket plus popcorn. You watch two movies in the theater, you're possibly spending 1,500. So the cost of application is equivalent, in my mind at least, to going to the movie theater twice, or maybe let's say one and a half, two trips to Starbucks, right? Something like that. So if you're doing that, the equivalent is, I mean, in terms of the money value, is making that application. So can I not go to Starbucks for some time, or can I not watch movies and then make an application, right? So it's just about trying, because you may be surprised at the end of it. You may get a shortlist, you may get a call, you may get a convert, right? You never know. So that is why make an application and see what happens. 94.93 in CAT, MHRD possible. Okay, so firstly, they have clearly defined the eligibility. So now if you look at the eligibility for the MHRD program, so we are now talking about MHRD. If you look at the eligibility, so the deadline is the same, so I'll not take you through that document again, but this is the MHRD eligibility, right? So for the MHRD program, they have said CAT 23 percentile is 85. So anybody who has more than 85, you are eligible. And in addition to that, there is the past academic record eligibility, which is 60 plus in 10th, 12th and 50 plus in your graduation program. So I think you should go for it at 94.93. You should make an application and see what happens. Okay. Let's do one thing. Let's quickly go through the MHRD document once so that everybody's on the same page, and then we'll take the questions that are there. Okay. So same deadline as MSc Finance, it's you have 26 July till 4 p.m. And if you look at the eligibility, as we were discussing, CAT 2385 for general, 90 in CET for general. For reserved, 75 in CAT and 80 in the MBA CET. This is the minimum eligibility, and they have mentioned that the percentile carries weightage of 50% in the final selection. If you look at the minimum eligibility in academic records, 60% 10-12 for general, 55 for reserved, and 50 and above for general in graduation, 45 and above for reserved. Okay. There is no such thing as math, etc. in MHRD program, so don't worry about that. It's only for the MSc Finance program. Now, this is a reiteration of the table that you saw there, so nothing significant there. If you look at the in-person assessment, again, it's group exercise, or group discussion rather, personal interview, and the writing ability test, right? So that carries, the PI will carry 50 marks, and then they are given the weightages. So let's not again worry too much about the weightages at this point of time. Weightages are not in our control. Our performance is in our control. In terms of how many candidates they'll be shortlisting, so they have given an approximate number of 300. This is in line with the selection rate that is there for the MSc Finance program, so 10 out of 1, because there are 30 seats for the MHRD program. So if you look at the MHRD course, they have clearly mentioned that there are 30 seats, right? And 50% are reserved. Again, the same thing applies here as well, that reserved category candidates will be confirmed as per state government's directives, and the reservation seats are allotted only to Maharashtra state domiciled candidates. So the example that I had given some time back, that will hold true. If you're somebody who has done your entire schooling, graduation, etc. from outside, you are no way related to, or you cannot prove in any way that you're a Maharashtra state candidate, you will not be able to use the reservation benefits. Okay, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, rest there isn't much to discuss. I'll just jump to questions straight away. Okay, so Aman, to answer your question, 94.93 on the CAT, is MHRD possible? Definitely, you meet the cutoffs that are there. So go ahead and make that application, and let's see what happens from there. It's written that cap round has started. So while I just looked at it some time back, it hadn't started. Maybe it just started or something at 5 o'clock. So I'll definitely check. We'll be making a detailed guideline video as well for that. So if possible, we will have a session tomorrow, or in the next few days, of course, we'll cover that up. Okay? But today, because this session is on MHRD and MSc Finance, let's not talk more about CAP. Okay? But Akanksha will definitely cover it on the YouTube channel. Simar, I am eligible to apply for MHRD regardless of me not having graduation certificate currently. Got 97.43. Okay, let's check the eligibility once again. If yeah, they have said the candidate should have passed minimum 3-year duration awarded by any university, etc. Okay, appeared for the final year examination to be awarded by any. Okay. So eligibility wise should not be a problem because they've mentioned the final year as well. But not sure why they've mentioned it only after this reserved category line. I would suggest that you just talk to them once and see if there's any issue there. Right? I don't think so, but should be able to apply. Mihir, additionally, is there a sectional cutoff for CAT score in MSc Finance course? No, they have not mentioned anything like that. So you don't have to worry about the sectional cutoffs. Deadpool with 95.1, CET getting into finance is not possible. Can I go for MHRD and maybe later shift into finance? That is not possible. Deadpool, you will not be able to do that. Okay, so it's one course, the shift is not possible. So you cannot move, you cannot get admitted to an MHRD program and from there move to a finance program, right? That is not possible. Sumit, I've completed my graduation in engineering from Mumbai University and does not have marks, just CGPI. And JBIMS MHRD form asks for marks obtained. What can I fill? First thing is generally all mark sheets carry a conversion formula, right? So whatever you have, whether it is a letter grade or a CGPA or an SGPI or whatever it is, generally a conversion formula is given. So you have to use the conversion formula that is provided by the respective university or board, and then convert your grade or whatever it is to percentage, and then use that. If no such formula is available, then of course it is obtained divided by the maximum, right? But just ensure that you talk to the college once, especially if there is no formula. So if university has specified a formula, which they have, you can use it for conversion. If there is no formula, you can inform the institute first of all. You can tell JBIMS that this is what it is. My college does not give a final percentage, but can I do, let's say, obtain divided by maximum and find whatever the percentage is. I've got 95.4 Maharashtra domicile. Should I fill MHRD form? So I've made it very clear that if you meet the cutoff, you should try, right? You should give it a try and see what happens rather than worrying too much about whether I'll get shortlisted or not or selected or not. It doesn't really matter. Uh, those things are beyond your control, right? So depending on how many applicants are there, they have clearly mentioned as to the number that they're looking at. They typically don't announce how many applications they have received in the past, right? But I would be able to talk about us like several years back. What had happened was by mistake they had made the entire Google form available, and this is somewhere around 2016, 2017. And that time they used to get close to about 700, 800 applications. Right? So the numbers now, of course, will be far more because there is more awareness and all of that. So you're looking at definitely more than 1,000, 1,500 or even 2,000, more than 2,000 students maybe who may be applying for these programs. Okay, Sumit, I've already answered your question. XY, I've answered your question. Nitesh, I'm 34. I was working with family business for past 5 years. CET score 99.18. How likely are my chances to get admitted? Okay. So firstly, Nitesh, your CET score is very good. So that puts you in a good position. I think you should definitely try. Do not worry too much about your chances. See, what I have seen over the years is that just having a high score is not sufficient. You also have to justify the reasons as to why you want to do this course. So we have seen people at high scores getting rejected. We have seen people at low scores converting. And that is because of the clarity that people displayed in their interviews, right? So I would suggest that you start preparing. Your CET score is excellent. And because of that, of course, your chance has improved. So make an application and then start preparing for your group exercise and the personal interview. Shubham has asked 95.88 OBC Maharashtra candidate, MHRD possible. As you can see on screen, right, you meet the cutoff that is required, the minimum eligibility cutoff for MHRD programs. So make an application and see what happens, right? See, a lot depends on your interview. A lot depends on your group exercise. So you have to factor that in, right? You won't be able to judge just like that whether my percentile is enough to convert or not. Is it enough to get a shortlist? Answer is obviously yes. Is it enough to convert? We don't know, right? Because see, we don't know how many OBC candidates will be making an application. How many of them will be able to perform better than you on the day of the group discussion and the VAT and the interview. So those things we don't control, and that is why there's no point worrying about this. But what is in your control for sure is making that decision that, okay, I want to apply for this program. So go ahead and do that. Okay. All right, I think we have answered more or less all the questions. We had initially thought of this as a half an hour discussion. So we're also reaching towards the end of the session. I hope you have found this discussion useful. If there's anything that you want to know, feel free to leave a comment. If there's anything that you want me to answer right now, you can just put it and we will discuss it quickly before we end this particular session. But otherwise, I hope all of you have found this useful and will start working towards your application. If there's anything, let us know. We'll of course wait for the CET cap announcement. As somebody said, it's already out. So let's have a look at that. And if there's anything that we have to cover in the form of a session or a video, we'll do it as early as possible. Okay. So great. Thanks everyone for joining. Wish all of you all the best for your MHRD and MSc Finance applications. So bye everyone. Take care.